Friends, let me start with a confession. For a long time, I was just like many of you. I sat in the pew on Sundays, I sang the hymns, I listened to the sermons, and I believed every word. I've spent years of my life truly, deeply, and passionately devoted to my faith. I read the Bible, I studied it, I prayed, and I found so much joy in the stories of Jesus. The parables, the miracles, they always felt so pure, so right. I always felt like I was on the right path, walking in the light. And in so many ways, I was. But a few years ago, something funny happened. I was just doing what I always do, reading through Genesis, and I got to the story of the Garden of Eden, the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent. And for the first time, a question I'd never dared to ask popped into my head. It was so simple, so obvious, that I almost dismissed it. But it just stuck. It felt like a small, strange rock in my shoe. The story goes that God put Adam and Eve in this perfect garden. Everything was given to them, everything except one tree. And then the serpent, this sneaky, slithering villain, comes along and tempts Eve. He tells her that if she eats the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, her eyes will be opened and she will be like God, knowing good and evil. Eve listens, she eats, Adam eats, and bam! They're cast out of paradise. The serpent is cursed, Eve is cursed, Adam is cursed, and humanity's long, sad journey begins. That's the story we've all been told, right? The serpent is the bad guy, a symbol of lies, temptation, and sin, the one who brought about our downfall. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that's not even the right story? The question that hit me was this: was the serpent lying? Wait a minute, let's really think about this. The serpent tells Eve, "You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And what happens after they eat? Genesis 3:7 says, "Then the eyes of both were opened, and they saw that they were naked." And what does God say later? Genesis 3:22, God says, "Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil." Did you catch that? Wow. The serpent's two main points, that their eyes would be opened and that they would become like God, were true. He didn't lie. He told the truth about what would happen. And yet, for thousands of years, we've been told he was a liar. We've been told he was the source of sin. Now, this isn't me trying to say we should go worship snakes or anything crazy like that. Not at all. I love the Lord, and my faith in Jesus Christ is stronger than ever. But this discovery, this little contradiction, it cracked open a whole new way of looking at the world, at the Bible, and at our faith. It felt like walking into a room I'd been in 1,000 times before. But this time, someone had flipped on a light I never knew was there. It was exhilarating. It made me think, what else have we misunderstood? What other truths are hidden in plain sight, right there in the words we've read since we were children? What if the serpent was right? What if he was the truth teller? The one who opened our eyes to a higher level of awareness? It's a crazy thought, I know. But the more I looked, the more I found little clues all over the place, not just in Genesis, but in stories from cultures all over the world. It's a puzzle, and it's a beautiful one. If you're ready to dive into this beautiful mystery with me, to see what happens when we look at our faith through a new lens, then you're in for a treat. This isn't about tearing down our beliefs. It's about building them up, making them stronger, and understanding them on a deeper, more profound level. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because you're not going to want to miss a single moment of what we're about to uncover. This story gets even crazier. So, we've established that the serpent in the Garden of Eden didn't lie. He told the truth about what would happen when Adam and Eve ate the fruit. He said their eyes would be opened and they would become like God. And that's exactly what happened. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but why was he cursed then? And why were they cast out? Well, this is where the story gets really, really interesting. And it goes far beyond a single apple. What if the Garden of Eden wasn't just a physical place, but a state of being, a state of innocence, a beautiful, pure, but ultimately mindless existence? In that state, Adam and Eve didn't know good and evil. They didn't know what they were missing. They were simply told to obey. And obedience in that context was simple. You just do what you're told. It required no critical thinking, no choice, no internal struggle. It was a kind of spiritual infancy, a beautiful one. but infancy nonetheless. Now, imagine what happens when the serpent comes along. This figure isn't an outside tempter. What if he's an embodiment of an internal impulse? The impulse for growth, for awareness, for something more. The serpent represents the spark of consciousness, the awakening of self. He offers them not just fruit, but sovereignty. He offers them the ability to choose, to discern, to truly understand the world. And that, my friends, is a terrifying thing for anyone who wants to maintain control. Think about it. Why would a loving creator want to keep humanity in a state of eternal innocence, unable to discern for themselves? Why would they demonize the one who offered them knowledge? It's a paradox, isn't it? Unless the story isn't about being kept safe from a threat, but about being kept obedient to a system. It's the moment they gain knowledge that they become ungovernable. They become like God, not in power, but in awareness and choice. And this isn't just me making things up. This pattern is woven throughout history and even in our own lives. The moment you start asking questions, the moment you seek a deeper truth, you are often met with resistance. You're told you're straying from the path. This is the very same narrative. The serpent, the symbol of awakening, has been twisted and demonized to keep us in a state of spiritual slumber. It's easier to lead a flock that fears the very force that could set it free. Isn't that just a jaw-dropping thought? This isn't a new idea. It's an ancient one. Take a look at ancient cultures, from Egypt to India. The serpent was a sacred symbol of life, healing, and transformation. The Egyptian uraeus, the coiled cobra on the pharaoh's crown, symbolized divine authority and awakening. In India, the serpent power known as Kundalini is believed to lie coiled at the base of the spine. When it awakens, it rises through the chakras, bringing about enlightenment and spiritual consciousness. The caduceus, the symbol of medicine today, features two serpents entwined around a staff, a symbol of balance and healing. It's the same energy. The snake wasn't the enemy. It was the key to unlocking our divine potential. And then Christianity, as we know it, came along. And the serpent, the symbol of sacred awakening, was twisted into the devil. It was so effective, so powerful, that this symbolism has controlled our collective subconscious for thousands of years. Think about the fear, the guilt, the shame that has been instilled in us about seeking forbidden knowledge. It all ties back to this one story, this one act of defiance that wasn't defiance at all. It was the very act of becoming conscious. It was the rise of humanity. The fall from Eden wasn't a fall from grace. It was a rise into consciousness. The original sin wasn't disobedience, it was sovereignty. It was the choice to claim our own power and our own knowledge. Now, I want to be very clear here. This isn't about rejecting faith. This is about embracing it on a level that's so much bigger and more beautiful than we were taught. Jesus himself spoke in parables, hiding spiritual truths within simple stories. He didn't come to keep us small. He came to make us whole. He came to set us free. He came to awaken that divine spark within us. And when you look at it that way, a whole new world opens up. A world where faith isn't about blind obedience, but about conscious choice. You see, the truth isn't something to be feared. It's something to be pursued. And when we pursue it with an open heart and a curious mind, we realize that the stories we thought were about our punishment were actually about our potential. And that's just the beginning. The next chapter of this incredible journey will reveal how this serpent force, this power of awakening, is not just a myth, but a very real, tangible part of you. So don't go anywhere. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? I promise you, this is not a path you want to walk alone. So we've journeyed through the Garden of Eden, we've questioned the serpent, and we've dared to re-examine the very foundation of our faith. We've seen how the serpent's truth was twisted, how a symbol of divine awakening was turned into a figure of fear, all to keep us in a state of ignorance. And in doing so, we've come to a truly beautiful, astonishing realization. The story of the fall from Eden wasn't about punishment. It was about potential. It was about our rise into consciousness. This brings us to the final, most important part of this journey. The serpent isn't just a character in an ancient story. The energy it represents, the sacred fire of awakening, is not just a myth from ancient texts. It is a very real, very tangible part of you. In the East, they call it Kundalini. It is the coiled, dormant energy at the base of your spine, and it is a sacred fire waiting to be ignited. This isn't abstract, it is felt. It's the subtle warmth you feel during prayer or meditation, the tingling at the back of your neck when a deep truth resonates. That's the echo of remembrance. Jesus spoke about this same fire, this same awakening, though perhaps in different terms. He told us that the kingdom of heaven is within. He spoke of being born again, not of the flesh, but of the Spirit. He said, "I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled." He was talking about the same divine spark, the same potential for spiritual transformation that the serpent in the garden represented. The path to God, to a higher consciousness, is not about finding an external savior. It's about awakening the divine within. This is the true reconciliation of Eden. It's the understanding that our bodies are not prisons to be punished, but temples to be honored. The sin was not in our nature, but in the forgetting of it. The original deception wasn't from the serpent, but from the idea that we are broken and in need of being fixed by an external force. But the serpent's message tells a different story. It tells us that divinity lives in you, that you are not broken, and that your body is a vessel for miracles. When you walk this path, you realize that your faith is not about following rules out of fear, but about embodying divine will out of love. You don't have to obey out of fear of damnation. You live from a place of sovereignty, a place of personal authority. You are a co-creator with God, not just a subject. This is the ancient promise. The serpent's awakening doesn't lead to chaos. It leads to an incredible, profound sense of order and purpose. It is the fire that burns away illusion, leaving only essence. And in that essence, you find true freedom. And so, my friends, this is not the end of the journey, but a new beginning. We have walked together through a sacred truth, a truth that was hidden in plain sight. We've seen that the garden was never truly lost. It was just hidden, waiting for your return. The serpent never left the garden. It was waiting for you to find it within yourself. To live as the serpent is to live fully awake, fully aware, and truly free. It is to remember that you are light and shadow, and everything in between. It is to walk a path of resilience, shedding what no longer serves you, and rising higher with every challenge. This is not a journey for the faint of heart. It is a calling for the soul. Thank you for journeying with me, for opening your mind and your heart to a new possibility. The serpent story is your story. Not a tale of punishment, but of glorious potential. Now the real question is, what will you do with the serpent's fire inside you?